In today's episode, we reflect on something many homes quietly carry, without meaning to, and without noticing it until it leaves a mark. Let me start with a simple question. Have you ever caught yourself saying something like, "Why can't you be more like your brother?" Or maybe it's softer than that. Maybe it sounds like, "Look how quickly your sister finishes her homework." Maybe you didn't even mean it as a comparison. Maybe you meant it as motivation. A little push. A helpful nudge. But what if that sentence doesn't land the way we hope it will? What if, instead of inspiring a child, it quietly teaches them that love has a scoreboard? I want to tell you a story. It's a story about two kids in the same home, raised by the same adults, loved in the same way, and still, somehow, experiencing that love differently, just because of comparison. Mansoor and Bazaid were twins. And if you've ever known twins, you know how quickly the world turns them into a package deal. Same birthday. Same house. Same clothes sometimes. Same grade. Same expectations. People think twins are two copies of the same person. But Mansoor and Bazaid weren't copies. They were two completely different worlds. Mansoor was the kind of kid who learned fast when it came to reading and writing. He'd sit with a book and disappear into it. If you gave him a worksheet, he'd finish it neatly, quietly, and without much complaining. Adults loved that. Teachers especially. Bazaid, though. Bazaid was different. Bazaid was curious in a way that didn't always fit inside school lines. He would ask 100 questions. He'd get distracted by the smallest things, an ant walking across the floor, a sound outside the window, a thought that arrived suddenly and demanded attention. If Mansoor learned like a straight road, Bazaid learned like a winding path through a forest. And the thing is, neither way is wrong. But when you're a parent or an educator standing in the middle of daily life, homework, chores, schedules, that constant rush, it's easy to forget that. One evening, their father sat them down to study. It had been a long day. Maybe he was tired. Maybe he'd had his own worries. And he watched Mansoor finish quickly, while Bazaid struggled to keep up. Bazaid erased and rewrote, like he was fighting with the page. Their father sighed and said, almost without thinking, "Mansoor is already done. Why are you still stuck?" It wasn't shouted. It wasn't cruel. It was just said. But in that moment, something changed in the room. Mansoor sat a little straighter. Not because he wanted to hurt his brother, but because praise can do that. It can lift you up. And sometimes it lifts you up by pushing someone else down, even if no one says it out loud. And Bazaid got quieter. He didn't argue. He didn't talk back. He just lowered his eyes, and the pencil in his hand slowed down. Suddenly the work wasn't just hard, it was personal. It wasn't "I'm learning." It became "I'm behind." And if you listen closely in moments like that, you can almost hear what a child might start to believe. Mansoor might start to believe, "I'm only valued when I'm the best." And Bazaid might start to believe, "No matter how hard I try, I'll always be the one who isn't enough." That's the quiet damage of comparison. It doesn't just bruise the child who is struggling. It can also shape the child who is succeeding, burdening them with fear, pressure, perfectionism, or the sense that love must always be earned. Over time, small sentences like that can become stories children tell themselves. And those stories can follow them for years. Because children don't just want to be corrected. They want to be safe while they grow. Psychologically, comparison creates a kind of invisible threat. Even in good homes. Even with loving parents. The message becomes, your place can be replaced. Your worth can be measured. Your value is relative. And kids are incredibly sensitive to that. When a child feels emotionally safe, their brain learns better. They take risks. They ask questions. They try again after failing. But when a child feels judged, especially beside someone right next to them, the brain does something else. It protects itself. It shuts down. It avoids. It learns to hide weaknesses instead of working through them. So the goal isn't just to stop comparing because it's nice. The goal is to stop comparing because it changes the way a child sees themselves. Now, Back to that night. Their father noticed something, maybe not immediately, but later. After the books were closed. After both boys went to their rooms. He saw Mansoor, still at the table, erasing an answer he'd already gotten right. And then rewriting it. Making it look perfect. Even though it didn't need to be perfect. And he saw Bazaid in his room, staring at his notebook like it had become an enemy. Not because he hated learning, but because he hated the feeling of being less than. That's when their father realized, the comparison didn't create improvement. It created fear. And here's where the transformation happened. Not in a dramatic speech. Not in a big family meeting. It happened in language. The next day, when it was time to study again, their father sat with them differently. He didn't start by watching who finished first. He started by looking at their faces. He said to Mansoor, "I like how focused you get when you read. That's a strength. Let's build on it." And then he turned to Bazaid and said, "I notice you think deeply. You ask questions that make me stop and think. Let's find a way that works for you." And then, instead of saying, "Why can't you be like him?" he said something much simpler, much kinder, and much more powerful. "Show me where it feels hard." That one sentence changed the whole room. Because it told Bazaid, "You're not a problem to fix. You're a person to understand." And it told Mansoor, "You don't have to compete for love. You can just be you." Their father started celebrating progress instead of ranking. He stopped using one child as the measuring stick for the other. When Mansoor did well, it wasn't "See, that's how it should be." It was, "I'm proud of the effort you put in." When Bazaid struggled, it wasn't "Why are you behind?" It was, "Let's take it step by step. We can try another way." And something softened in both boys. Mansoor began to relax. He made mistakes without panicking. He didn't need everything to be perfect to feel okay. And Bazaid started taking small risks again. He raised his hand more. He tried without shame. He learned in his own way, at his own pace. That's the thing about children. You don't have to pressure them into becoming better versions of someone else. You just have to give them enough safety to become more fully themselves. If you're listening as a parent, or a teacher, or an older sibling, maybe you're thinking, "But I compare because I want them to improve." I understand that. Most comparison isn't born from cruelty. It's born from worry. From love mixed with fear. From wanting your child to be prepared for life. But life doesn't require your child to be the same as someone else. Life requires them to know who they are, and to trust that who they are is worthy of care. So here's a gentle takeaway you can keep with you. When you feel comparison rising in your throat, when you're about to say, "Why can't you be like?" Pause and switch the question. Try, "What do you need from me right now?" Try, "What part is confusing?" Try, "How do you learn best?" And if you've already made comparisons, if you're hearing this and feeling a little regret, let that regret stay soft. Don't let it turn into shame. Parenting is full of moments we'd rewrite. The beautiful part is, we still can. We can change our language today. We can repair with one honest conversation. We can say, "I'm learning too." Because children don't need perfect parents. They need present parents. Parents who notice. Parents who try again. So maybe the question is not how our children compare, but how deeply we understand them. Thanks for listening. And if this episode reminded you of someone, a parent, a teacher, a friend, maybe share it with them. Not as a criticism. Just as a quiet invitation to see children more clearly. Until next time, be gentle. With them, and with yourself.